ET Now Startup Central, India's first and only daily show dedicated to startups and entrepreneurship. I'm Chandra Shrikant, joining you live from India's startup capital, Bangalore. And Krishna, it's good to be back after all the budget madness, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is Krishna Kumar coming to you live from ET Now's Mumbai studios. So good to be back here on ET Now Startup Central. So let's get a check on all the headlines that we're tracking over here. After co-founding one of India's most admired companies, Infosys, Chris Gopalakrishnan is now on a mission to replicate that in the startup world. What themes is he betting on? An exclusive conversation coming up. The winter may be here on the funding side, but it's not the end of the road. That's the word coming in from Bloom Ventures. From chai carts to a minivan that reaches merchants across the country, Amazon is leaving no stone unturned to get more sellers on its platform. We get you a ground report from Bengaluru. We are kicking off a special segment called Women in Tech, and today we feature Ashwini Ashokan, the co-founder of an artificial intelligence startup, Mad Street Den, or MSD as it's called. And did you know that Oscar winner Leonardo DiCaprio is an avid startup investor? We get you the roundup of DiCaprio's startup portfolio. Straight to our top story then, where we speak to Infosys' co-founder and startup evangelist Chris Gopalakrishnan. Chris, who has started an accelerator program with his Infi colleague Shibulal called Accelor last year, spoke to Chandra, in fact, in Bengaluru, about the bets he's making and what the current macro environment means for startups. Take a look.
Approximately a year back, we started Accelor Ventures, and we've now seen two batches go through the accelerator program that we have. The accelerator program is targeted towards companies who have an idea and then who want to test out that idea, do market validation, customer validation, and be ready for ready for pilot. So that's the first stage. We have had two batches, about 12 companies have gone through this. 3 of them have been actually taken further for funding by Accelor. The third batch is being planned at this point, and third batch will start in probably the third week of March.
Right. In terms of the kind of sectors, you have certain areas of interest, but the kind of interest that you've got so far, is there more of one category, less of one category? What trends are you seeing there? And also, are they mostly from Bangalore, from other cities?
So at Accelor, we decided that we will look at e-commerce, and within e-commerce, we will look at companies that are looking at how to enable the supplier ecosystem. Typically, capital light model. And second, we will look at companies that leverage marketplaces and look at how they can satisfy the consumers.
Compared to all the euphoria and the exuberance we saw a year back, some of that seems to be coming back to normal. Since you work very closely with the startup ecosystem, what are you seeing on the ground? Is this something that has afflicted only the late stage, the unicorns, so to speak, and not so much in the early stages, the starting up stage?
See, given that the global economy is going through a slow phase, definitely there will be some tightening on the funding side, and that will impact the entire startup ecosystem. But this is part of being the global economy, and we will see ups and downs. I don't worry too much about these things, because if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a startup, you have to accept that you will be affected by market conditions.
Finally, sir, for startups watching this show, if they need to be part of the accelerator program, what are the 3 qualities that you really look for in the startups that you evaluate? If there are 3 common virtues that sets them apart, what would they be?
See, we very carefully look at the stage at which they are and what kind of support that they need, so that we can slot them into the right program. Second, it has to fit into our focus areas, right? So even in e-commerce, we are very selective about the companies that we look at, and the other 2 areas are healthcare and clean tech. So it has to fit into our focus areas where we can provide them the support. Third is, if you find, okay, lot of companies in a particular sector, then we try and select where we feel comfortable with the team, where we feel comfortable with the idea, whether we feel comfortable with the business plan that they have.
E-commerce companies helping the seller ecosystem, clean tech and health. Those are some of the areas that you should be working on if you want to be part of Chris Gopalakrishnan's accelerator, Accelor. But moving on from that to another venture capitalist, we're talking about Bloom Ventures, which has backed the likes of Taxi for Sure, Grey Orange and Zipdial. Bloom Ventures' Karthik Reddy spoke to us and he said that though hot funding may be drying up, the winter may be here, there's nothing really to worry about because it's all in the game and it's something that startups have to adjust to. Let's listen into what Karthik Reddy had to say.
See, there's always good and bad out of any of these cycles that play out. So I think the bad last year was that people thought money was available on the cheap, it's easy to go and build scale without worrying about unit economics. The new normal basically suggests that that era is over because the hot money providers have taken a break. That's all it means, right? So it might be 6 months, it might be 9 months or 12 months. The great part is it cleanses out all of the bad business models, so to speak. You're a victim of the market. But will you get bought for $30 million or $40 million? It's begun to happen, right? It happened in a Zipdial, it happened in, Practo bought somebody. So those are beginning to happen, which is good. At least it's a testament to the founders having built something that's valuable, as opposed to build something which is simply a race to the finish on bad economics. Because what will survive in the end is good economics, good business.
And what is Bloom looking to invest in this environment?
We are seeing almost a 75-25 skew right now to actually domestic consumption.
Within the consumption, anything
I would say there's a big difference in the way we look at consumption. Anything that touches a marketplace model typically has two sides to it. Invariably, the second side is actually a small business. It's never peer-to-peer. It's never C2C. There's always a small business. Even if it's a driver, even if it's a cab driver, even if it's a laundry guy, even if it's a repair guy, he's the second side of the marketplace. So suddenly you're seeing this unorganized workforce getting a huge upliftment, right? And that's been a thesis for us for a couple of years. It's wonderful to see it play out. And I think in this fund, we will look at consumption as two parts. One is the B2C piece, one is the B2SME piece. And I would say we'll be equally divided on both.
Finally, Karthik, for startups watching this show, if they have to, pitch to Bloom Ventures, what business should they be in, and what expectations should they be working with?
So we have a strong thesis-based approach. Every principal in the team and the founders have endorsed this in advance. And then when the founder comes, we quickly know whether we like it or not. So very difficult to say what do we like, what do we don't like, because our job is to see and spot these and change them every 3 to 6 months. So what I say today is outdated by March. What I say today is probably what I've already invested 3 months earlier. So we started making bets in education, fintech, payments, with some looking at health, continue to love hardware, IoT businesses, very difficult to come by. And so we think of it as Indian consumption stories, large markets, Indian engineering themes, which is, can you build, using great engineering talent we have, markets for the region or for the globe. But both then congregate at this other point. Are they a phenomenal team which knows how to scale something not from 1 million to 10 million, but from 10 to 100 or 100 to a billion?
Hope that was useful for all the startups watching our show in terms of how you need to pitch in an environment like this. But moving on to our other big story, guess who was taking a live from PM Modi's Chai Pe Charcha campaign last year? Amazon. In fact, Amazon India has gone a step further to attract sellers on its platform. What's their strategy this time around with this particular chai? ET Now's Rahul Dayama brings us this very special ground report from Bengaluru. The world's largest e-commerce player is knocking on the doors of offline partners quite literally. It's in busy business districts like these, homes to thousands of small traders, the traditional unorganized retail players, that Amazon sees a big business opportunity: sellers. Since all of these e-tailers operate on the marketplace model, the diversity of sellers is key to consumer retention as it gives access to a wide range of products. Called Amazon Tatkal, the Amazon van is traveling across 10 cities, covering several local business districts, creating awareness about online selling. For the interested ones, services like registration, imaging, cataloging is available free of cost, letting sellers go online in a matter of 60 minutes. But what's really driving this focus?
Our aim is to transform the way India buys and India sells, and we want to reach out to every seller because they have great selection, they have great prices, and they are the people who add a lot of value to our platform when buyers come and buy their products. So our objective is to outreach all these people wherever they are, and instead of waiting for sellers to come on the platform, we are trying to reach out to them in their markets, get them to get their products here inside the van, inside Amazon Tatkal, and get them launched in 60 minutes.
With all the players operating on marketplace model, seller acquisition strategy is becoming a core of their business model.
Not only Amazon, even the other big e-commerce players like Flipkart, Snapdeal and Paytm have introduced a slew of initiatives to attract sellers on their platform, from zero commission models to efforts like these, reaching out to their offline counterparts and get them to be part of the Indian e-commerce story. So clearly, e-commerce players are leaving no stone unturned to attract sellers on their platform to give customers a wide assortment of products. Rahul Daima, ET Now, Bengaluru.
I guess, Krishna, that's why Amazon's called the everything store, because they're just reaching to every nook and cranny in the country. And I guess that's something that Flipkart and Snapdeal will also do as competition intensifies. But moving on, ahead of Women's Day next week, we are kicking off a special segment today called Women in Tech. And the entrepreneur that we are featuring on the show today is Ashwini Ashokan. She's the co-founder of an exciting startup in Chennai. It's called Mastery Den. Does a lot of work in the area of artificial intelligence. We speak to her about the challenges in running the startup and the business opportunities that she sees going ahead.
So Mastery Den is a computer vision based AI startup. So it's not just an artificial intelligence startup. It's anything AI, anything to do with camera based input. Okay, so images, videos, right, and understanding what's going on, right? So it's like teaching machines to see like how we humans do. So we basically come up with a variety of features, whether it's recommendation engines or allowing customers to take a picture of something they see and find it online, or personalization, like I said, right? Or cross-product recommendation. I'm looking at a top, show me other pants and skirts that go with that top, right? That's what we're doing in the online world, right? Really understanding fashion visually.
Just to understand, it's mostly focused on the retail space for now.
Right now, it's our first vertical. We have a complete AI platform, computer vision platform that we've built. But consider View.ai as the first business that we're launching out of our platform.
Right. And, would this be mostly for Indian clients? Are you also getting a lot of interest from MNCs? What's the scene?
Absolutely. We're global already. We're in Asia. We're launching in the Middle East, Europe and the US. We're very heavily in India, of course. We're live with Craftsvilla. We're live with Vunik, Yapme. We're pretty much across the board. As a field, computer vision has died several times in the last 2 decades. AI has died over 4 decades, right? Because a lot of this is being built in the form of technology, and they get acquired. So there have been a lot of predecessors to Mastery Den, but building one thing, right? So there were companies like Snaptel, which got acquired by Amazon. Like.com got acquired by Google in 2007, 2008. So during the crash at that point, there was a lot of acquisitions in the computer vision space, and nobody across the globe has successfully built a computer vision-based AI company that has lasted from a business standpoint, right? So it's not just the technology. And Mastery Den's one of our mantras is bringing AI into everyday life. The underlying premise was that technology has been around for a very long time, and our strength is absolutely technology. We've got some super geek heads like, people like, there are merely like 200, 300 people like them across the world, actually, if you look at, Anand and Costa's background. But our motto at the end of the day is to say it's great for technology to keep pushing. But you've got to find a way to make it happen in a very meaningful way for people.
And what would your goals be over the next 12 months? I know you've already sort of started making an imprint in retail, but beyond that, what would your goals be?
We really want to establish ourselves in retail. That's going to be our biggest goal for the next 12 months. But we're actively working on our second vertical as well.
Which one?
We're working pretty heavily with robotics. Retail for us has really worked out. I think retail is officially out of experimenting mode. We're in product market on scale. We're looking at, achieving about 1 billion API calls and page views by the end of the year.
All right, on that note, Chandra, it's time now for a quick check on all that's buzzing in the world of startups. First up, Blipper Inc., a technology company specializing in augmented reality, artificial intelligence and computer vision, has raised $54 million in Series D funding led by Khazanah Nasrin Al Berhad, the strategic investment fund of the government of Malaysia. The tech startup said it will use the funds to strengthen its engineering team and to expand to new regions. Blipper had raised $45 million in funding last year and acquired augmented reality platform Layer in 2014. And first of sorts, in Tamil Nadu, NASSCOM will be setting up a startup warehouse in Chennai. The warehouse, which is spread across 8,000 square feet, can house up to 50 startups, allowing them to learn, work and accelerate their companies. The entrepreneurs will have a list of benefits which could help polish their entrepreneurial skills as well as polish their marketing abilities. Robotics firm Systemantics, which builds industrial robots for the manufacturing sector, has raised another round of funding from venture capital giant Axel Partners and Infosys co-founder Nandan Nilekani a few years after it received backing from investors such as Bloom Ventures. Systemantics, which was founded by IIT Madras alumni Jagannath Raju in 1995, raised the latest round a few months ago. The exact amount of investment is still not known. The latest investment in Systemantics will mark at least the 7th venture that has been backed by Nilekani, who has actively invested in early stage startups.
Krishna, good to know that the funding tap hasn't dried up altogether. There are still very interesting companies that still get funded in the market. But moving on, we're going to tell you about a very interesting investor, someone who's been in the news this week. We're of course talking about Leonardo DiCaprio, who finally managed to get an Oscar. But the reason we have him on the show today is to really talk about his role as an investor in real life. A lesser known role, but something that Krishna has all the details on.
Absolutely, Chandra. First up, I'm sure both of us are very happy that finally DiCaprio picked up an Oscar. And for a film like The Revenant, which couldn't have been more deserving for an actor who's done the kind of roles he has, say, over the last decade or so. So all controversies apart, this was one Oscar that was totally deserving. But here is the deal, and as Chandra was telling us, why we're talking about him here on Startup Central. It's because he's a serial investor when it comes to startups. I have this big list with me. First up, he's invested in a company called Rubicon Global, which is a startup which provides complete waste and recycle management services. That's one. After that, Fisker Automotive, a startup that's an electric car maker, environment friendly, in sync with the speech he made after winning the Oscar. Mobly, a photo and video sharing portal he's invested in. There's more. There's a startup called Q, which is invested in, which provides a connected LAN in a box for health testing at home. Again, in sync with the kind of a person that we know Leonardo DiCaprio to be. Another one, Diamond Foundry, a startup that actually claims it can grow real diamonds. Keep in mind, he starred in Blood Diamond, which spoke about the travails of African countries when it comes to the diamond trade. So he puts the money where his mouth is. And one more, Casper, an internet-first mattress company. Absolutely astounding for an actor with the body of work and the amount of work he does with his own primary profession to be invested in companies that I've just listed out. And more importantly, here is a man who's honest. He didn't make that speech for the sake of it all. He's actually invested in all that he spoke about after he won the Oscar. Back to you, Chandra.
He manages to put in so much of work, Krishna. I mean, investor, activist, and a brilliant actor. I mean, it's just amazing. But coming to the final segment today, number crunch. And the number we are crunching for you today is 2,000%. Now, that looks like a humongous number. That we are highlighting that number for you because that's the percentage by which cigarette prices, taxes have been increased in the last 2 decades. Now, if there is one thing about the budget, it has to be a hike on cigarettes. And that's exactly what's happened. It's sort of a standard formula that every finance minister has used over the years. But has it really helped in curbing the habit and people really kicking the cigarette? We leave you to be the best judge for that. Krishna.
Chandra, here's my take on the whole thing. I think as many people smoke because of the income tax they'll have to pay when come this time of the year. If there was any kind of a relief on that front, maybe the smoking, in the country will or across the world will go down. But there's no relief. In fact, your EPF is going to be taxed. Wonderful news on that front. On that note, I'm going to go out there and take a puff. So we'll wrap things up here on ET Now Startup Central. Coming up next is Market Watch. Keep watching ET Now.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.